Welcome to another Saturday morning chat here on your hometown station, 860 AM, 94.1 FM, WSBS, streaming live online at WSBS.com. And I have been counting the days to bring this lovely young lady to our airwaves. And without further ado, I'm going to bid good morning to Jodi Reynosa. Jodi, are you there?
I am, Ron. It is an absolute pleasure to connect with you and join you and your listeners. Hello.
Hello, hello. Jodi's checking in from Utah this morning.
That's right, southern Utah.
How about that? How far from Salt Lake City?
I am about, where I am right now, I am in Cedar City, and it is about 2 hours, I would say. Just around 2 hours, give or take.
All right. We are a little over 2.5 hours to get to Boston from Great Barrington, just to let you know, so about the same distance.
Oh, nice. My sister used to live in Boston. So she worked with the BAMTU women for an internship. So, she's familiar with that area as well.
Excellent. Well, Jodi, you know why we're having you on the air with us, because you have such a wonderful feature on YouTube, and it's entitled Guided: How You Navigate Your Divine Journey. Now, what inspired you to start this series? Let the folks know how this came to fruition.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for allowing me to highlight this show. It's very important to me. It's my passion. It's really a labor of love. And I was on my way to Sedona, Arizona, and actually I went to a conference there. On my way back to the Phoenix airport, Spirit told me, you're going to have a show. It's going to be called Guided. And I thought, okay. And at the time, I was listening to a book, and it was about a former remote viewer for the CIA's Stargate project. And, Spirit just kind of said, you're going to be interviewing folks like, Dave Morehouse, who the book was about, Psychic Warrior, and others. It's going to be about spirituality. It's going to be about disclosure. And the underlying premise is going to be about Joseph Campbell's hero's journey. And so I just thought to myself, okay, all right, well, show me the way. And it just has kind of unfolded from January 2019 and on. And from that point in time, I've just launched this show that has really been exciting, and it has gone into various directions of just intrigue. And so it's just been really fun.
One of my favorite words in the English language, intrigue. Very good choice, if you ask me.
Yeah, it's been really neat. And, like I mentioned, it really has a premise based on Joseph Campbell's hero's journey. And one of my favorite movies actually associated with this is something you can find on either YouTube or Prime, Amazon Prime, and it's called Finding Joe. And it really gets into the different stages of the hero's journey. And you have people like Deepak Chopra, Rashida Jones, and many other luminaries who go into the hero's journey, which is really something that's in all of the movies, from Star Wars to Raiders of the Lost Ark to, so many of the movies that you watch today. And it goes into the 12 stages of the hero's journey. And you take those stories that we see in movies, you take those stories that we hear in mythology, and even in our lives that we have, and really we play those out in our lives. And so, for instance, we have, the fact that we might have this ordinary world that we seem to be in, or even the movie The Matrix. That's another good example. And then we have this call to action. It's like we seem to be going in Groundhog's Day or just this ordinary life, and then all of a sudden something happens, whether it's a death, a divorce, something happens. It's like the rug might be pulled from under us, and then we have a choice. We can go on this journey of discovery, and, we might refuse the call at first because it might feel uncomfortable to us. But then we might meet our mentor. That's another stage. In Star Wars, it might be Yoda for Luke Skywalker. And then we cross this threshold where we begin this quest, and it's a quest of trials. But eventually these tests and these maybe allies and enemies and dragons and so forth that we go through, we're able to conquer these things and conquer the demons within us. And so you go through these stages, and it's just this neat journey. And so through my interviews with the people that I've come across in my life, and that whether I've read about them or I've seen them through their shows, I've had the privilege to interview them. And hearing about their journey and their hero's journey is just fascinating, and it's very moving to me, and I hope to my audience. I mean, I've gotten a lot of feedback, and they're just like, wow. So this has been the premise of my show.
All right. Well, I actually did my homework on this, and I actually tapped into some interesting clips from the guided playlist. And I want you to just give me a brief synopsis of why our listeners should take a gander at these particular topics as well, including the paranormal phenomenon with Tom Dongo. And I know you're still working on getting some top-quality audio from your guest on this one.
I am, absolutely. So Tom Dongo is one of the world's authorities on UFOs. So he is a top-notch ufologist, and he has had some contact and encounters that are quite extraordinary. He knows the different races of ETs. He has phenomenal pictures. He's actually from, or living rather, in Sedona, Arizona right now, and he talks about the different encounters that he has on one of the episodes of Guided. And in part one, it's just really fascinating. We fixed the audio. I'm going to be uploading that actually tomorrow. But then we're going to go into part two in June, and we're going to really go into the research and the experiences that he's had on Bradshaw Ranch, and also his book, Merging Dimensions. So that was quite fascinating. And, Tom knows about the Vril Society, which, Hitler had a lot of experience with. And he actually, through the Vril Society, was able to get technology for some of the things that he unfolded and the intel that he was able to get. So it was just quite fascinating.
Well,
and then
I didn't know if you were finished or not. Sorry about that.
No, I was just going to say, and then you wanted to know about some of the other episodes. I've had Allison Coe on, who she's a quantum healing hypnosis therapist, and we go into why quantum healing hypnosis is a very interesting modality and what you can access through your what they call oversoul or higher self. And that all goes back to a woman named Dolores Cannon, and she developed this technique, and it's quite fascinating. And that goes back to hypnotist and psychologist Brian Weiss, and he has had books called Many Lives, Many Masters, and things of that nature. You mentioned you had a question, Ron.
Actually, I was curious about part two of this interview with Tom in June, and this is more like a continuation of what you featured on the Guided show already, or is this going to be a completely different episodic show?
Yeah, we're going to review a little bit about part one, but we're really going to go into his research and experiences on Bradshaw Ranch, which a lot of paranormal activity went on at Bradshaw Ranch. And Bradshaw is in Arizona, and he and another woman, Linda Bradshaw, they did extensive research there and had extensive experiences with the paranormal. And then we are going to look at his book, Merging Dimensions, because it's all about Bradshaw Ranch. So that will be kind of a second, a completely different episode for part two.
All right. Now, this, I don't know, you featured in the Guided show, but you posted on Facebook, and this was a compelling piece entitled The Dark Side of Cupid. And this is how you can relate to this article as it cautions people regarding the subject of depleting relationships. And Can you just elaborate further as to what this is all about? Because I tell you, this particular piece on Facebook moved me.
Yeah. And not only did it move people, it also alarmed some people, actually. This is a post that I got from another Facebook page called The Cosmic Dancer. And it was posted on November 8th, 2015. And it was entitled The Alien Love Bite, Dark Side of Cupid. And what it's about, what was most alarming about this post is the picture, because the picture is almost alien-like. It features two people looking at each other, and they have these, like, cords, almost kind of mechanical-like cords attached to each other. It's attached to their brains, one another's brains, their like the bust and then the belly button, and it's like symbolic to energetic cords, also depleting and sapping each other's energy. And for me, I really identified to this because I've been in relationships that have just seemingly completely depleted me energetically, physically, emotionally, mentally, where I've actually been physically sick from these relationships. And so I posted it to my guided Facebook page because I wanted to warn people that, you know, if you can energetically and in any way protect yourself when you first happen to come upon even a red flag, if you're in a dating situation or even start a friendship, you know, a casual friendship with somebody, if you come upon a red flag, like, you know, something doesn't feel right, really take note of that, because you can end up in just this downward spiral where you're just thinking, how did I ever get into something like this? And it can really be difficult to get out. And that has been my experience. So that's what this post really is about. And I actually hope that people can read it, and you can read it by either going to The Cosmic Dancer and getting on the November 8th, 2015 post, or you can go to my guided Facebook page and reading it. But basically the premise of this is there are red flags in the Dark Side of Cupid cases where it's almost like you think, oh, my gosh, this is like deja vu. I feel like there's this connection, and it just all seems so exciting. And then suddenly things just go south real quick, and you just feel this emotional and physical draining. You feel like just things are just headed in the wrong direction. And really what I have learned through my research is that almost deja vu connection feeling is really trauma bonding. It goes back to family of origin. It goes back to things that are unhealed within yourself. And that's the familiarity that you're actually feeling, because it's the things that are unhealed within yourself. And so it's like as if you're tapping in to the other person into their unhealed wounds as well, because it matches what's unhealed within yourself. And so it becomes this beautiful disaster, quite frankly.
Yeah.
So this post is really cautioning you to look within yourself, number one, to heal the wounds within yourself, and number two, look at the red flags and trust your intuition, because if you don't and you bypass that, you're going to get in trouble.
So in other words, you're pretty much held hostage by this bad situation, and you're trying to release yourself from this captivity.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. You become like in bondage.
Interesting. Now, what do your guests take out of these stimulating conversations every time you interview them on Guided? I mean, do they finish up with a feeling of euphoria? Do they pretty much get satisfied with the end result when they're looking at it on YouTube? I mean, talk about the reactions.
Well, I know I'm in a euphoric stage, that's for sure. As far as the feedback that I've received from them, I often get messages like, Jodi, that was amazing. I felt like I was able not only to get my message out, but I felt like it was a healing for me. And I was able to promote whether it was a book or my music or the journey that I've been on. And I felt like it was such a fun dialogue. And one of the things that they say to me, which I feel like, oh, that was really special. Thanks for letting me know that, is they say, as an interviewer, you don't just ask a question and then interrupt and ask another question. You really listen. You really listen, and then you ask another follow-up question, which really tells me you've listened. It's not like you ask a question because you've had it scripted to ask. It may be something you've never thought to ask before. It's just because of what I've said in my answer, it sparks a different question, and we may go on, another little journey with that line of questioning. But they tell me you're just an active listener, and that makes me feel like you can really connect with me, and that's so enjoyable. So I feel like that's what they get out of it. It's just a really connective, healing dialogue for them.
Well, do you feel like I'm in that particular genre also, or I'm asking the questions and I'm letting you respond every step of the way?
I feel like it's a fun connection with you, Ron, and I just feel like you are listening and enjoying, and so am I.
Well, let's get down to the nitty-gritty over here, because Jodi Reynosa is also a very accomplished television personality and worked behind the scenes in the news department, and it all started west of us, a little over an hour away, in New York's Capital Region, where she worked for 2 of the 3 affiliates. Your first stop was at News Channel 13 with my dear friend Benita Zahn and the late, great Ed Dague. And tell me how you felt when you started out doing the typical chores of being behind the scenes and getting the evening newscast raring and ready to go.
Oh, goodness. The Capital Region is just near and dear to my heart. It's where it all began for me, and I was just really mentored by the absolute best in the business there. I came from Brigham Young University, where I did my undergrad there, and, being raised in a faith where you get married young, and I had a newborn baby at the time, and I was an intern there at Channel 13, and at the time, Paul Conti was the news director, and Chris Bruner was the assistant news director, and I was there just, learning, and I wrote a little bit for the newscasts, and then I really just shadowed, some reporters, and I did some field producing, and it was just so much fun. I did my first field producing assignment, and I actually had some questions for Hillary Clinton there, and I actually had a chance to allow her to bring down her guard, and a lot of the stations used that soundbite because I asked something so broad and so kind of out of the spectrum because I was so green at the time. I mean, everybody in the press corps at the time had something so pointed and specific, how are you going to lower taxes, very pointed, very specific. And me, I was so green. I just said, so, if you get into office, what are you going to do? And everybody just kind of looked at me like, who is this girl? And, and she looked at me and she just laughed. And then she said, well, here's what I'm going to do. And she just went down her, through her pitch. But that is what a lot of the stations used because it showed her personality. It showed her laughing. And so it was just kind of funny. So I just thought, oh, okay, well, sometimes being green and being super naive and not knowing what you're doing actually can have some benefits.
Yeah, well, something, you did make a leap to Schenectady, and you became a news assistant for the dean of Capital Region Television, who is still going strong. Besides, Liz Bishop sends her utmost regards to you.
Oh, Liz Bishop. talk about the utmost professional, and she knows so much. She's so intelligent, and I looked up to her so much. And I mean, I got her scripts ready, and it was so fun just to observe her, just to be in her presence. And you know, I have to tell you a funny story as an aside. I thought at the time, oh my gosh, wow, she noticed this. So as I was telling you, I had a newborn baby at the time, and you know, by the time I got to WRGB, my little girl was probably about almost a year. And I was dieting like crazy because I was just trying to get the baby weight off. And I would bring in my lunch every day. And as I was, you know, getting Liz's scripts ready at the time, she looks over at me and she goes, "You've been losing weight, haven't you?" And I thought, oh my gosh, Liz Bishop noticed that I'm losing weight. And I was like, oh my gosh, what a dear heart, you know, just to have that compliment. And I just thought, what a neat observer that as a new mom, I mean, I think she could just sense like the struggle of trying to make it in the business at the time, working behind the scenes. And I was actually not only doing that, I then was promoted to fill in as an associate producer overnights for Ed O'Brien.
Oh, and his memory remains eternal and everlasting. I mean, Eddie is so sorely missed. He was probably one of the nicest souls you'd ever want to get together with, and a true professional at that also. And when you posted that you were coming on the air with me, I took a look at that tribute that Liz and Greg Floyd did on Ed O'Brien 5 years ago, and it's hard to believe. It's like only yesterday we lost him. And Eddie was truly an institution in the Capital Region in both radio and television. Sports was more his bag, but when he transitioned into the anchor desk, he didn't miss a beat, and that's what made him so professional. And I think it's a badge of honor that you spend some time in your career working side by side with Eddie, because he truly was good people. You know that, Jodi.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, Liz points out in that tribute that he just had an eagle's eye for just the details, you know, and he did. Like, I remember he would say, "Jodi, you missed this," or "Jodi, you need to put this in." And I'd be like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I'll do that right away, Ed." And he just, all of those beautiful professionals, they just were so instrumental to me in learning the ropes of the business. And so I will be forever grateful for having that team to really groom me in knowing just how to write and how to look for the details, and observing them on the air, in presenting as an anchor, as a reporter. It was just, I can't say enough about the Capital Region and their professionalism and, you know, WRGB's team. It's just, wow.
Well, you know
Absolutely
something,
beautiful.
Jodi, it's still going strong. They're rocking and rolling. And like I said, I hope Liz is listening to this interview online right now, and she basically sends her hellos and regards to you. It just gave me the kindest words about you on PM when I messaged her on Facebook. And it's just the fact that you pretty much learned a lot from your stomping ground here west of us. But I also have to take into a detail that you are also a reporter, anchor at WROW Radio, back when they were a talk station. And talk about the story and how you became sportscaster for a day, because that cracked me up.
Yes. So, as you know, the winters there can be brutal. And I remember getting up super early to go and do the newscast there. Well, one day, the news director said, "Jodi, I need you to do sports." And I said, "Really? Okay. Can I not do sports, please?" He said, "No, I need you to do sports." Okay. So I just thought, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I love basketball. I played basketball. I love volleyball, played volleyball. but I just I don't know in-depth sports. I don't know statistics. Anyway. So I go and I do sports, and I get calls like nobody's business because I screwed up. I said Sabres instead of Sabres. I said that one day I said it was going to be Super Bowl Sunday that weekend. I got calls that were like, no. It's going to be Super Bowl Sunday next Sunday. And I'm sure that my news director got calls like, can you get this lady off the air like stat, like ASAP? So finally my news director came back to me and said, okay, Jodi, you don't have to do sports anymore. I was like, oh, thank goodness. I'm like, okay, and I'm so sorry. I'm like, look, I think news is my jam.
Well, that's when you should have called Eddie after you left Channel 6 to go to WROW. He would have educated you on all the pronunciations and when the Super Bowl actually took effect. You know, Eddie's love was the Saratoga racetrack, if you remember.
Oh, and so was mine. Talk about Saratoga Springs. It's gorgeous, but my goodness, I know, talk about Ed knowing sports like the back of his hand, I know. But Saratoga Springs, opening day, there was nothing like it. I mean, the horse races, the horse track, I mean, just the feeling you had there, the excitement, the smells, just everything. It was just so fun. Everybody's hats and the way they dress, I really miss it. There's just nothing like it. I remember taking my little girl at the time to the Ben & Jerry's there. Oh, it was magical.
Well, everything is still intact as you left it, so one of these days when things return to a sense of normalcy, you have to return out east.
Absolutely. And it's funny because I just feel like somewhere in my soul, I still have that Saratoga Springs just memory that follows me because I actually have lived in Saratoga Springs, Utah. They actually have a place in Utah here.
Wow.
So I guess I just thought, you know what, it's in my soul.
Well, you know something? You took a piece of the capital region with you, and it never went away.
Absolutely.
Because you've also gone to bigger and better places. You also went to Elmira, New York, and News 12 in Westchester County. You worked in New York City, over in Scranton, Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, some stops in the San Francisco Bay Area, and, of course, your last job was in Eugene, Oregon before you went to concentrate your efforts on the guided series. Jodi, I would love to continue, but we have to wrap up over here. So tell me how people can get in touch with you via social media and how they can look into some of these shows and be enlightened and enthralled in the process.
Absolutely. You can subscribe to my channel on YouTube. Just go to Jodi's Gems, and for the alliteration purposes, it's Gems with a J. So Jodi's Gems, and subscribe to Guided. You can also find me on Facebook at Jodi Reynosa, or you can go to my Guided Facebook page. There's also Jodi Reynosa TV broadcaster. Also Instagram, J Ray Media Bay, and that's Bay, B-A-E, J Ray Media Bay. There you have it.
And there you have it. I would love to continue more, but we're out of time. And can you come back again and share some more great stories with us?
I would absolutely love to. It has been an absolute honor and pleasure. Thank you so much, Ron.
Oh, you're so welcome. And I know the two Eds up above, Dague and O'Brien, are giving the ultimate thumbs up after this conversation for sure.
Beautiful, beautiful.
And we're going to wrap up with a excitable song to conclude this chat, courtesy of the Pointer Girls. How's that sound?
Love it.
Because it was an exciting time to have you on the air, and you are welcome at any time on a future Saturday morning chat. Jodi, bless your heart. Take care, and we'll talk soon, okay?
Thank you, Ed.
You're welcome.